Everyone was once again quiet. The hope they had gathered cheering moments before had faded, and so had the anger and rage. The only sound that was present was the gathering storm that had been growing stronger by the hour. No one knew how much time had passed since they had fought Guinam and the helicopter had left, but no one seemed to care. Somehow they had managed to light the fire again to keep themselves warm. The whole group was huddling much closer than before, one would think, to keep them warm, but that wasn't the only reason. Another crack of thunder sounded, and Namra let out a pained grunt. She had been doing it for a while now. Soo-hyuk had asked her if she was okay, and she had simply brushed him off by saying everything was fine. But with the storm growing, she was looking more and more pained. "Namra?" Soo-hyuk asked, trying to look at her in the eyes to ask what was wrong. "Too much," she said as another louder, much closer crackle of thunder sounded, causing her to drop to the floor, covering her ears as she let out a scream. Soo-hyuk rushed to her side as the first drops of rain began to fall, and it only seemed to make her worse. "The rain," Cheong-san said as he looked over at her on the ground, squirming, trying to cover herself. "It's the sound." Everyone looked at him confusedly. Remember, she had powers, right? So if she had super strength, then she has super hearing. They all seemed to connect the dots rather quickly, especially Soo-hyuk, who ripped a piece of his clothing, proceeding to wrap it around Namra's ears and placing her hands atop it. "Hold it there." She nodded back at him, but he could tell she was still in pain. Cheong-san was already thinking about something that resembled a plan. They could get down now. He left Na-Yeon and rushed to the edge of the roof, looking down, and his theory was confirmed. The zombies were writhing on the ground as if their senses were blinded, and the rain was growing stronger. "We have to go now," he said, turning back to the group, and they were just shocked. "What do you mean, go now?" Jimin asked, and he could tell from the looks he was getting from the group that they were all confused by his plan. "The zombies. Right now they can't move around properly," he said, pointing behind him as the group rushed to the edge, looking down. "We can't move past them when they're fine because there are too many of them, so we have to go while we have this chance. Otherwise, we are going to be stuck here till we die." "Fuck!" Junyoung shouted as he began pacing on the roof. Na-Yeon just walked up to Cheong-san silently and looked into his eyes. Both of them said nothing as they just stared at each other till she nodded her head as if she had got the answers she needed. "Let's go." "We don't know how long the rain will last, so let's get moving now," Cheong-san said as he started grabbing some weapons before waiting for everyone else. Everyone was buzzing again, the energy they had lost suddenly regained as they gathered what they could. This was looking more like a suicide mission, but what other choice did they have? Let's go. They scaled quickly down the building, always nervously glancing back at the sky with each step, but the rain was holding for now. As they landed, they saw some zombies writhing in the distance, not even paying them any mind. Cheong-san let out a sigh of relief. It had been just a theory, and now he was grateful it was working out. He had Na-Yeon's hand in his grasp as Onjo followed behind them closely. The other boys in the group were running defense with Soo-hyuk staying close to Namra to make sure that she was okay. The inner group connected each other with their arms, just as an extra way to make sure that they didn't lose each other in the darkness and the loud rain. Well, it had been long, they could tell, with the amount of time that it had taken for them to climb down the building safely. The rain was now not as strong as it had been before, and they had to move fast. They started moving towards the other side of the building quickly, sticking to the walls and doing their best to be quiet. Junyoung and Dae-soo noticed some zombies that seemed to see them and were heading their way. The two broke off from the group with their bats in hand and started attacking the small group of zombies that were easy pickings since they were disoriented by the still pouring rain. Cheong-san was glad the plan was going smoothly as he looked at where the duo had gone to intercept some zombies. Na-Yeon felt herself run into Cheong-san's back. "Cheong-san?" she asked, confused as to why he had stopped. "Mom," was the only word he said. She felt the grip he had on her hand tighten to the point of pain before he broke off in a run toward Junyoung and Dae-soo, screaming, "Don't hurt my mom! Get away from her!" he screamed as he pushed away Dae-soo and punched Jun-young, who was fighting the zombie. Everyone was stunned by his actions before some of them started rushing in, pushing him off Jun-young. The zombie was trying to attack Dae-soo, who hit it with his bat again, causing it to shrug back. Cheong-san just screamed more now, crying loudly for them not to attack his mother. The rain was starting to clear and everyone was getting worried as some zombies were now starting to look in their direction. Everyone was trying to stop him to see why he was acting like that. He screamed, "Mom!" And that caught everyone off guard. Dae-soo pushed off the zombie, now hesitant to attack it, as he looked back at the group for an answer on what to do now. Soo-hyuk knew they had no time for this and rushed forward, knocking him down with a punch, and with the help of Dae-soo, held him down while the group fought the zombies that were coming. Na-Yeon could only try and help calm Cheong-san, who was crying loudly for them to stop attacking his mother, but they had no other choice. Jun-young and Dae-soo beat down the zombie till it stopped moving, but as they took deep breaths to calm themselves, the rain began to fade. Anjo and Na-Yeon were holding onto a crying Cheong-san as he continued to wail for his mother. Their eyes met, and they knew they had to get him out of here. "We need to go, Cheong-san," Anjo said to him, but he looked broken. Na-Yeon could see it clearly too. She could see herself in how he was right now. He looked as if everything that had happened was now coming to him all at once. Na-Yeon remembered how he spoke of his mother, his parents. She knew he tried to maintain hope that his mother was okay even with all of this happening, and to have all that hope dashed so harshly, she knew it would be too much to handle. "We need to move now," Dae-soo shouted back at them as the gathering zombies started growling in their direction. Na-Yeon and Anjo struggled to help Cheong-san to stand as the rest of the guys made a shield between them. It was instantaneous, as if the zombies had suddenly got their senses as the rain came to a weaker, heavy drizzle, and they charged. Dae-soo, Jun-young, Woo-jin, and Soo-hyuk fought off the first few before they had to start running. They ran ahead of the group, trying to clear a path for the rest of the group. It was loud, the rain had slowed, but the thunder was still going strong, causing Namra to let out her own pained screams each time. They saw the gymnasium coming into view, and they could see some people waving at them to come. As they ran in, the group immediately blocked the door, but they could only catch their breaths for a moment because there were zombies in there too. "Come on, in here!" One of the new girls screamed at them. Their group fought off some of the zombies as they retreated into a back room. The irony was not lost on Na-Yeon as they rushed into the back room, blocking the door and rushing to barricade it. They kept on stacking more and more stuff till they were sure that there was no way the zombies could get in. Well, they hoped. Cheong-san had just been in the corner trying to suppress his cries. He knew he hadn't been any help, and he had probably caused someone to die. Na-Yeon looked around, and she already knew that someone was missing. One of those quiet girls was not there. She looked at Hyo-ryung, and the girl was just staring at the wall as if she could see through it. It didn't take a genius to figure out what had happened. She didn't know how to deal with this, so she retreated to Cheong-san and sat down next to him. She sat there quietly as she could hear him still trying to suppress his cries. "It's okay to cry, you know," she said, trying to find the right words, but she didn't think she had them. Anjo was standing awkwardly, and she didn't know what to do or say either. With nothing coming to mind, Na-Yeon wrapped her slim arm around his shoulders and started pulling at him to come closer to her. She could feel him resisting as he didn't want to let go, but she was determined and he wasn't putting that much resistance into his denial. With one final pull, she pulled him into her embrace. Na-Yeon held him tightly, rocking them side to side as she stroked his back. Cheong-san tried to hold strong for a little longer before he started to wail. His cries were muffled by her shoulder, and he finally wrapped his arms around her, squeezing tightly as if she was the only thing that could ground him. It's okay. Everything is going to be okay," she said, even if she didn't believe her own words, but she had to have him believe. They only made it this far because of him, and they needed him to get out of here. She could feel her neck wet with tears as he continued to cry into the night in their tight embrace.